So often I get questions about my own birth experience and how my experiences have helped to shape me to be the midwife that I am today. And so I just wanted to share a little bit with you guys about my own birth journey, which started when I was just a very young girl, to be quite frank. I was just 2 months after my 15th birthday when I gave birth for the first time. That child was a long failed induction, which ended up in a totally unnecessary C-section. But because the 24 hours was up on the clock, the doctors said that we needed to be going back to the OR for a C-section. And so I endured 24 hours of a Pitocin induction with nothing to help me with the pain or the discomfort. I also didn't have any preparation for that birth at all in any way. With my second, third, and fourth children, they were also inductions, but not until I was 41 weeks. My first baby was induced 3 days before the due date. My second, third, and fourth babies were induced at 41 weeks. My body just likes to carry babies late, and that's just normal for me. But I was able to vaginally birth all of them. My first baby that came via C-section was 6 pounds, 13 ounces, and my second child, first vaginal birth after a C-section, was 8 pounds, 14 ounces. And I birthed her successfully, beautifully, because my body was ready and was receptive to the Pitocin. With her labor, I actually got so terrified of transition, and I didn't know what it was at the time because I didn't know what books to read. I didn't have a midwife like myself to walk me through what to expect and how to prepare myself mentally and physically. And so I showed up at the hospital, was induced. As my body was approaching transition, I literally believed that I was going to die. Like, I was experiencing so much pain and discomfort that I really honestly did not think that I would survive the experience, quite frankly. And now I think about it, it sounds so crazy. But that was my reality at that moment. And so I was ready to go back for a C-section. And the doctors convinced me to just accept an epidural at 9 centimeters. And I'm sure that they probably figured that it was my first vaginal birth and I'd be pushing for hours like many first-time moms do. As soon as they got the epidural placed, it's like I was in this crazy cloud and could not even see straight or think straight. And the epidural came in and it took all the pain away. It worked so well. And I just felt like, okay, I'm not going to die. I'm fine. And then as soon as it was in and I was able to relax a little bit, they decided to check me again. I can't remember. This was 28 and a half years ago. She's almost 29. So, I don't remember all the details, but I know that shortly after the epidural was put in, it was time to push. And I pushed for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes and delivered my 8 pound, 14 ounce baby girl. It was amazing. But I was terrified of labor. I was excited for more babies, but I was literally terrified of labor. And so with my third and fourth babies, I pretty much requested an epidural as soon as they started the Pitocin. And with my fourth, the epidural didn't work. They put it in like 3 times before they actually said it took and it was successful, but it really didn't work. I was still feeling everything. And so after that was when I had realized, like, I never wanted a dumb epidural to begin with. Why am I doing this? And so I had already decided with that fourth pregnancy that if I had any more babies, I was not going to be delivering them in the hospital. I had pretty much decided that about a month before she was born, but it was too late for me to really make the arrangements to actually have an out-of-hospital birth. But I had been learning a lot during her pregnancy, and that was the decision that I had made for future babies. And so I did end up having a fifth baby. 25 months later, my fifth baby was born. And I remember during that pregnancy, the doctor who was actually running a birth center, who acted more like a midwife than a doctor, she was like, Sabrina, how are you going to handle labor? Because you've given in and gotten an epidural with your last three. And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out because I don't want to be in the hospital. Because I wanted the positive things like the freedom to move around and eat in labor, the freedom to not have to have an IV in my arm, the freedom to have like my people with me and trusted providers with me, not strangers that I've never met, like nurses and doctors. And so for all of those reasons, that was why I was planning an out-of-hospital birth. And so when I told my doctor, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out, she handed me a stack of books. And I read these 4 books. And the common theme throughout all of these books was breathe and relax. And I was like, I can practice these things in this book. And I remember the one book that stuck out to me that I still recommend to my own clients today is Natural Childbirth, The Bradley Way by Susan McCutcheon. And that book had specific breathing exercises in it to teach yourself how to stay focused on your breathing, relax your body, and just surrender to the waves of labor. And I practiced that. I practiced that 3 times a week for the last 6 weeks of pregnancy, probably. And I'm telling you, doing just those simple things helped me to get through a long labor, because this was the first time with my 5th pregnancy that my body was doing it on its own. And so I carried to 42 weeks in one day. And once my body initiated the process, then it took a while. Like my inductions, first one 24 hours, C-section. The next one was 8 hours. The next one was 6 hours. The next one was 3 hours. And so my body got efficient once it got that kickstart. But with baby number 5, my body was waiting for the kickstart. So anyway, once I finally went into labor, it was about maybe 13 or 14 hour process, which was long for me. That's a very normal, healthy labor time, quite frankly. And so I was laboring very consistently for 13 hours. It was really only what I would call hard work for probably maybe the last 4 or 5 hours. And I remember with that labor, I had ended up getting into the pool, and for whatever reason, I can't remember if it was the midwife that worked with the doctor or if it was the doctor who checked me and told me that I was fully dilated and I could start pushing. And I was like, well, I'd rather wait for the urge to push. Let me just labor down. It was a whole nother hour. And I don't recall, but I don't think they were saying anything like the baby is really high. We were just waiting for that urge to push. And so I ended up an hour after laboring, like every 2 minutes for an hour, I was like, I've got to do something. So I did end up changing positions, went into a stand up, go into a squat. I was really working hard to get this baby out. And so it wasn't like I was 10 centimeters, so go ahead and push now. which was different for me in the past. And so once I got baby lower, that spontaneous urge did kick in, and then my body was working with me. But all that to say, it was a pretty intense labor. And I never, not one time, felt like I was going to die. I literally was just like, this is intense. This is a lot of work, but I'm getting through it. I'm okay. I'm doing okay. And so that was the biggest difference from that first out of hospital birth and my first fully vaginal birth in the hospital. Was I had used tools that I had learned to help me to stay calm, to stay relaxed, to understand that this is a normal, healthy process that will not overtake me. I'm not literally going to die. Yes, it's intense. Yes, it's the hardest work I've ever done in my life. But women have been doing this forever, and I'm not having any true medical emergency. It's just intensity. And when you shift your mindset from fear-based to understanding why things feel the way they do, it just helps you so much in being able to work through it and get through it. And so I went on to have 3 more babies, all totally natural, all without any type of pain meds at all, in my own power. And every single birth experience got better and better for me because my mind got more aware of the process and got more comfortable with the process. And this is what I teach the women that I work with. Knowledge really is power when you apply it in your circumstances. So when I am encouraging you to read books, it's because I want you to take that information and actually use it so that it helps you to have a better experience. Obviously, if you're working with someone like myself who truly respects the birth process, respects your decision making, we create a safe place for you to actually do those things. It's a little bit harder if you're birthing in the hospital because they don't really give you as much leeway to trust your instincts. But I'm just a living example of what is possible, that learning some specific tools and doing some things a little differently and practicing them and preparing your body and your mind that last couple months of pregnancy will actually change the way you experience labor. It doesn't have to be so fearful and so painful that you literally believe you're going to die like I did. It can be a very inspiring, invigorating, joyful experience, because that's what it turned into for me in the last 4 times I had babies. And so I don't just teach these things. I actually am a real, true, living example of using the things that I teach every single day. And that's how we get great results. So if you're somebody who is curious about what's possible, how can you have a very inspiring, joyful birth that's not fear-based, please reach out to me because I would love to help you experience that for yourself.